Voting is currently underway in Djibouti, where the country's voters are choosing among 6 candidates. Incumbent Ismail Omar Guelleh is expected to win a 4th term, extending his 17-year rule in the tiny nation. As in previous polls, some opposition parties are boycotting the election, in which 180,000 people are expected to cast their ballots. While Djibouti is not a big nation, it has a population of less than 1 million people, 60% of which are not employed. The small country gained its independence from France in 1977, and 22 years later, in April, Ismail Guellah was elected as the 2nd president of Djibouti. In 2000, civil war that had erupted in 1991 came to an end, and in 2003, the country held its first free multi-party presidential election, with President Guella winning another term. In 2010, the constitution was amended, allowing President Guella to run for a 3rd term. Opposition political parties won parliamentary seats for the first time in 2013. Nearly 40 years since its independence, the port of Djibouti remains the lifeblood of its economy. It provides the biggest source of income and employment in this otherwise barren country. Let's get more insights now into that election in Djibouti. CCTV's Clementine Logan, she's joining me from tiny Djibouti. Clementine, what's the atmosphere been like in the run-up to that election?
Well, Beatrice, it's important to remember that this election comes after, as you mentioned, a controversial move in 2010 by incumbent Ismail Omar Guelleh to amend the constitution in order to extend his rule. He's now vying for a 4th term. We saw him vote earlier this morning, and he told the press after he'd voted that he was very confident of securing that next mandate. Now, as for the opposition, the main opposition, Union for National Salvation, is running after a years-long boycott. 3 other opposition candidates are not running, they're boycotting. The opposition alleges that the Independent Electoral Commission is biased in favour of the ruling party, something that IEC denies. It says it's overseeing this vote in an impartial way alongside teams of international election monitors, but that's certainly been a bone of contention. Generally, though, the atmosphere has been peaceful. We went to both pro-government and opposition rallies on the last day of campaigning, and the atmosphere was calm. But I did speak to the foreign minister yesterday, also the spokesman for the ruling party, and he says he fully anticipates the opposition to contest the results after they're announced, suggesting that he's very confident Guelleh will secure his next mandate. As for the opposition, they argue that this was never a level playing field to begin with. Back to you.
Well, Clementine, there will be 6 candidates in this election. What will be the major issues facing an elected government?
Well, under Guelleh, Djibouti has enjoyed economic growth. There's been investment in major infrastructure projects, and that's largely down to, as you mentioned, its hugely strategic location along one of the world's busiest shipping routes, its proximity to Yemen and Somalia, which has meant that major powers have scrambled to set up military bases here. That earns the country millions of dollars a year, but Djibouti still has several very pressing social and economic issues that would need to be addressed, including a very high youth unemployment rate. The Foreign Minister told me yesterday that there simply aren't enough jobs to absorb their graduates coming out of a recently installed university, and the IMF estimates that nearly 2/3 of the population is still living in poverty. The opposition, for its part, says that there are human rights abuses, arbitrary arrests and intimidation. That's something that the ruling party denies. Both parties, both the opposition and the ruling party, have pledged to tackle these issues in their own way if they win. We'll know more in the hours to come. Vote counting is going to happen behind me. You might be able to see part of the stage there. We're expecting vote counting to begin as soon as polls close, 6 p.m. local time, and we're told to expect the results by midnight.
All right, Clementine Logan for us there following that election in Djibouti.